Hey y'all, welcome to a new video. Today we are going to have some fun with swatching all of my bronzers and contours and just examining the differences in opacity versus translucency and sheerness, cool or warm. Some of these are newer, like this one from NYX. I also picked up one of the Sephora contours. I should face these around the other way. And I also have one of the new Glossier. I love this. It's beautiful. So yeah, we're gonna do creams and powders as well as palette. Let's get into it. My camera is giving me issues today. So if my focus is in and out, you will have to forgive me. All right, let's do it. So let's talk about these creams first. These are all from Salt New York. I believe, not sure which is which. So this is Taupe. This is the contour shade. It's supposed to be a little cooler. This is the bronzer. So it's the Sculpt and Bronze in light medium. When I'm looking for bronzers, I tend to go for the second to lightest shade, just because I find it works with my undertones a little bit better. And then this, I don't know if this one is still available.
Oh
This is
no!
Toasted Coconut. This was part of a limited run that she did along with a sparkling peach shade. It's an amalgam of her regular Cream Tint Pro and her highlighting formula. So let's start with Toasted Coconut because it is unique, but it is so pretty. And then the bronzer in light medium. And last but not least, this used to be called Contour. Now it is just called Taupe. But if, you know, we're measuring those, they're all the same opacity. Toasted Coconut, obviously, because it's got that highlighter formula in it, is going to be more reflective. The light medium bronzer is less orange, has more of a green tinge to it, whereas Taupe almost looks rosy compared to these other shades. Do I want to do the, let's do the creams. Let's get all the creams out of the way and then we'll do the powders, because I don't think it's fair to compare creams to powders. Okay, grab this one first. This is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. I don't necessarily know if this is a bronzer so much as like a base product. It just kind of brings life back to the skin. It's very sheer. I mean, comparing this one to the Salt New York, it's incredibly sheer. It really doesn't build up that much because it is so balmy and so thin, but it's just magic. It does something special. You can see I have hit major pan on this. Lovely, lovely products. Stolen my heart. This I just found out is still available. This is the Uoma, this is the Double Take Contour Stick, but it's not a double anymore. It used to be double-ended. This is just, for a contour, this is lovely. It's gray toned. It's got some gray in it, so it's very cool toned. And if we look at it compared to the Salt New York, the Salt New York definitely has more rosiness, but the Uoma is just warm enough to be skin native on somebody who's lighter toned. And it's a cream. So it's not a balm, it's not a melty balm. It is a cream that's a little more stable. And I do really like the packaging. This is available through JCPenney Beauty. It's sold out on their website. It's sold out on Ulta. The only place I know to get this is JCPenney. Let's talk Glossier. This has like absolutely stolen my heart. I have been wearing this almost every day. This is the Glossier Cloud Paint Seamless Cheek Color in the shade Swept. So this is, I believe, the third shade in the range. And I picked it because of the undertone, and I like a little more depth to my liquid bronzers. And it definitely has a little bit more redness, a little more ruddiness. It's kind of up there with toasted coconut almost. It's an absolutely gorgeous bronzer, especially for spring and summer. I really like the way they reformulated this from the blushes. I was playing with one of the other blushes the other night, and it was just so hard to work with because it had so much pigmentation. These bronzers really don't. I find myself going back into the tube multiple times as I'm applying to make sure I have enough product. These are gorgeous. I'm really happy with that bronzer. Okay, these are gonna get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about these. So these are the Phytosurgence Spectral Sunlight Cream Bronzers. This is a really hard, waxy formula that apparently you're not supposed to stick your fingers in it, but unless you do and you warm it up with a lot of pressure, you're not going to get a whole lot of color, which is either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how much color you want. So this is shade 2. This is Rosy Daybreak. It's supposed to be a little bit cooler. And you can see I barely got any product. So I'm going to keep digging into it. I can feel it warming up. It feels like a really hard wax that just and I am applying pressure. Like my finger is working, and there we go. We finally got a swatch-worthy amount of product. So I like this. I find it's hard for me to work with sometimes because it is so thin and just I bought a special brush to use with these. I just find the formula really difficult. This is shade 1. Yeah, so this is Golden Daybreak. I use this every time I do my makeup. I don't think I hit pan so much as I broke the product right down the middle, but that's okay because it means we've got, hey, a good swatch. I don't build this up. I use this to help transform the skin under my eyes. I use this the same way that I use the Victoria Beckham because it really does help change the temperature and that like weird socket line under my eyes that looks kind of jarring. So this one I use a lot, and it's weird, but it does the job, especially in such a small amount. Especially with the small amount that I use. Like I'm never going to finish this, and I wish I could get this in a smaller pan because if I want to get that like finished look under my eyes, I have to take this with me. And it's not that big a deal, but if I'm trying to take a small bag of makeup, this is another thing I have to throw in with it. But I do like it. All right, and this is shade 4. I don't know if this is my right shade. I don't know. I might need shade 3. These are interesting because the odd numbers are golden or warm toned, whereas the even numbers are cooler rosy tones. So that's shade 4. This might actually work really nicely as a very, very not there blush because it's really rosy. It does warm up my skin, but in a strange way. So I'm going to experiment with using this as a blush instead of a bronzer. So those are all of my liquid and cream contour and bronze shades. And I think it's interesting to put all of these, like I use all of these on my face. At some point or another, I do use all of these. And I think it's interesting to see how different shades of bronzer can look and affect the way that the rest of your makeup looks. Bronzer is something that I've really taken an interest in the last year. And this is why, because we've got like this very warm, shimmery bronzer all the way down to these like matte, cool, sheer, waxier formulas that are a lot more tenacious than the balms. So I'm going to clean my arm off and we're going to swatch some powders. All right, let's go back to palettes and do the 3 bronzers that we have in here. So we have these 2 powder, okay, arm is dry. We have these 2 powder bronzers. I believe these are both from the balm. That is incredibly rich. I haven't used these on my face in a while, admittedly. So on me, these could either be bronzers or blushes. Just depends on the day. And that's always fun. I love a multitasker. We love multitaskers. All right, I then have an Hourglass palette. This is actually the second shade, but it's in the jellyfish packaging because jellyfish are my favorite animal. They're so cool. All right, so this one is going to be much more golden, much more orange. I have a little bit of a hard time wearing this alone. I do find myself reaching for other bronzers to kind of fill in the gaps between this bronzer and my skin tone. Okay, these guys next. Do I want to separate contours and bronzers, or do I just want to go with, let's just go for it. So number 1 is the Sephora contour in, this is in the light to medium, so it's the second shade. And these powders are decidedly cool toned, even if you go up in depth. They're still going to have a lot of gray, which makes them perfect for a contour. You just have to make sure you get the one that's going to work with your skin tone. All right, this is the bronzer that really kind of instigated this video. I bought this by accident. I didn't realize it was in my Sephora cart, or not my Sephora, my Amazon cart when I made a purchase of something else. But this is shade, what is this? Deserve Butter, which, you know, is kind of fun. But I wanted to compare this to my other bronzers, both in formula and in color. It's kind of in the middle between these 3. I feel like this is a good bridge between these guys. It's really interesting. This is an Hourglass bronzer in diffused, I don't know. It's one of the Hourglass mini bronzers in diffused something light. I love this bronzer. It's rosy, but it gives just this lovely sunlit glow. It's just such a pretty, and the mini is so much product. I have had this for years and I'm nowhere near hitting pan. I use this a fair amount too. Haus Labs. This was one that I really kind of hemmed and hawed about purchasing because after swatching them in store, I was like, oh my God, they're all too orange or too green or too yellow. But after having kind of a bronzer revelation, I bought this secondhand and I have never looked back. On me, this is so neutral. I can wear it winter, spring, summer, or fall. It doesn't matter. It just gives life back to my skin, very much the same way that the Makeup by Mario does. Let's talk about the balm. This is the Take Home the Bronze in the shade Olivier. And I like how thin this is. I also really love how neutral this bronzer is. You can use it as a bronzer. You can also use this as a contour depending on your skin tone. There's that whole like contouring with blush, contouring with a warmer bronzer. It's so beautifully neutral. I really like that product, despite the fact that the packaging is a little bit tacky, but I really like the product inside, so I'm willing to deal with it. Nabla. This may be my oldest bronzer. It may be. This is the skin enhancing or skin bronzing powder in the shade Dune. I really love these powders from Nabla. They are something special. And like I said, I have had this for probably 4 years, and I do use it. I do. It's got a lovely bit of warmth to it. It's got that rosiness, but I would compare it more to the NYX than anything else. If we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty here, that's what I would compare it to. All right, Gucci, Gucci, Gucci. So this is the Gucci bronzer in the lightest shade. And she's gorgeous. She is special. She is Linda Evangelista. I think I make that joke in just about every video. If you're not aware, that is a Drag Race reference. A RuPaul's Drag Race, not like speeding cars around the outer belt like people do. This is just so smooth and so rosy and so pretty. Oh my goodness. It is just one of the loveliest bronzers that I have. And it actually is very similar to the Hourglass. Uoma. So this I don't really consider a bronzer. It is called the Double Take Sculpting Bronzing Powder. This is in the shade White Pearl. Again, Uoma is available through JCPenney. And it is so light. It is barely there. Again, I compare something like this to the Makeup by Mario. It's barely going to show up. But if you're using something that is pretty disparate from your own skin tone, something like this is going to help fill in the gaps and just make everything look a little more natural, like it's meant to be. Oh, the bronzer that changed everything. This is the Make Beauty, what is this called? Skin Mimetic Micro Suede Bronzer in the shade Lunar. Oh, I love this bronzer. It has just changed my relationship to bronzers. I thought because I'm cool toned, I needed a cool toned bronzer, when in fact, I needed the opposite. So I love all of these bronzers, but this is the one that makes me look tan. It makes me look like I've been in the sun. It gives me that really beautiful sun-kissed warmth. And I adore this bronzer. And Make Beauty has just made such an impression on me over the last year. Okay, this is a contour. This is Charlotte Tilbury. You can see I have some major pan in this contour. I wish she sold the contour by itself because I would buy that in a second. So it's cool toned. It's got a little rosiness to it. Doesn't have a ton of gray, but you don't necessarily need a lot of gray to contour with. It's just a matter of how it looks against the stuff that you're layering it over. If you're layering it over an orange or a peach blush, this may not be what you want. You may want something that's a little more gray, like the one from Sephora. It's all how things compare next to each other. And last but not least is Our Lady Victoria Beckham. This was another secondhand purchase, and I am so glad I made this purchase. This bronzer is different, it's special, and it's unique to my collection. So this is the lightest shade. It's so light. It barely has any pigment. It actually looks really bright on my skin, but I don't use it as a bronzer. I use it under my eyes to adjust the tone and the color, and that's what makes it special. And the bronzer itself, the deeper shade, is beautifully light, beautifully desaturated, a little bit rosy, and it just gives the lightest bit of warmth. Let me get in there and get like a really good swatch, because this does not swatch all that well because the bronzer is so desaturated. There we go. That's better. So those are all of my powder bronzers, going all from like almost ruddy peach to like gray, and then these rosier tones in the middle to the Make Beauty that has like an orange tone. And the Victoria Beckham just blows my mind. So the point of this exercise was to examine the difference in the variations in bronzers that I use that all work on me. So if you think you only need or have or want one shade of bronzer, that may not be the case. So you get the warmth, you get the cool, you get the rosiness, you get the peachiness, and then you get just like beautiful neutrality. And it makes a difference in how everything looks. Do you need this many bronzers? No, you don't. I can answer this as somebody who has this many bronzers. You don't need this many. But it's nice to have a variation, and it's nice to have some choices. I'm going to clean off my arm and we will wrap this up. All right, I am curious as to how many I own. So let's just take a quick head count. 3, 4, 5. I'm counting to 6 because it's 1 unit. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I have 23 bronzers. 23 bronzers. For one face, for one makeup enthusiast face. I have 23 cream bronzers. That feels like a lot. Not cream, just all together. Cream and powder. And that is bronzers and contours. So I guess I shouldn't feel so bad about it, but it's a lot. I'm not decluttering anything today. This was a experiment in color, in opacity, in how things work in context to each other. So I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. Thank you. Thank you to my current subscribers. You guys are awesome. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Rachel. I love beauty. I love makeup. I'm a skincare person. I'm an artist. I'm also disabled. So if any of that kind of content sounds good to you, please subscribe. I would love to have you here. I hope you are taking care of yourselves so you can take care of each other. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye, friends.